Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we've got Jeff Lester from Hunt Hard Outfitters based out of Eastern Arizona. Jeff focuses on Unit 1 and 27. He also has a guiding operation in New Mexico and also has his own line of gear and packs and clothing and such. Jeff, how you doing?
Good, great, Jay.
Where have I caught you today? Where are you at?
Today I'm in Puyallup, Washington, south of Seattle. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think every time I've said it up here, everybody's corrected me, so I'm not really sure that's how you say it.
And
but I'm doing a
trade
sport show up here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a trade show. I've been on the road doing some shows and pushing our new gear and hunts, but mostly gear in the West. Since the packs that we have are right now Western oriented, and then some of the other stuff we have coming for the East we'll have out next year. But right now we're just pushing the main packs that we have coming out for the West. So
Right on. Sounds good. And Jeff, where can guys find your gear? Where do they need to go to see your stuff?
they can go to hunthard.com. Right now that's our old website, and I've never been really that great of a web guy, but we're getting on board with a new website. And if you go to hunthardgear.com, you can view the new gear. And here shortly in the next week, that's going to take place of hunthard.com. So hunthard.com will be the site, the official site of the gear site. And then we'll be currently building a new outfitter website as well. So we separated all the companies so that each of them stand alone. For years, they've always been one under Hunt Hard. And we wanted to separate that in the marketplace so that people didn't have any confusion on exactly what we did. So, we're doing the outfitting as well as gear and apparel.
Sounds good. That's great. I wanted to dive in today. We've got the Arizona elk application and antelope applications coming up. The deadline, I believe, is Tuesday, February 14th. And everybody, I'm sure your phone's been blowing up. Everybody's wanting to know about this upcoming season. And talking about Unit 1 and 27 with the archery hunts, the early rifle, the muzzleloader, the late archery, and the late rifle hunts. Before we get into that, I want to talk to you about, you had a heck of a personal season last year as far as elk hunting. You harvested a great bull in Utah and a bull in Arizona. I was going to ask you to talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I was lucky enough to draw a couple of great tags. That's half the battle in this hunting industry, is in the hunting world, is drawing the good tags. You got to get a good tag to, take a good animal most of the time. And I was lucky enough to I drew a boulder tag in Utah, and I drew the only random tag in the unit. So I drew with only 4 bonus points. So I was like a 0.04% chance of drawing the tag I drew. So I felt pretty blessed with that. Anyway, had a really good hunt there. Hired an outfitter, Jesse Hatch, from Utah, and kind of did a semi-guided deal where I went up and just spent some time with him on the boulder, and he showed me the areas and, showed me what they had on trail cams and different things, and just kind of learned the area with him, spent a lot of time just driving the roads and trails and different places with him, and then he pretty much set me loose and hunted with me a day here and a day there, and we had a great time on the boulder. And I was really impressed with Utah's age class that I was seeing on the unit. Didn't see as many elk as I thought I would see. I think the cattleman kind of rules in Utah. I've never seen so many grazing animals on public ground in my life. But had a great hunt. Passed up a number of really solid 350 kind of bulls, and was lucky enough to take a 385 bull that we didn't even know about the bull. I went into a new area, and I think this bull had relocated into that area, and I kept chasing down bugles. So that hunt, Utah, they give some really horrendous dates to the archery hunters, which is kind of baffling if you're from Arizona or any other state, but they cater to the rifle hunter there, and the archery hunt, I can't remember, I think it was the 20th is what day that started. I guess you had the tag too, Jay. Is that when that hunt started, was the 20th?
Yeah, I had the Beaver tag, and I want to say it was around the I don't know, 18th or 20th, something like that in August.
Yeah.
And then it ran till the 16th of September, I think, this year.
Right. So we had the later hunt this year going to the 16th, but as you know, in elk hunting, it's just getting good about that time. And the last week of my hunt I didn't hunt the last week. I hunted the first 2 days, I guess, of the last week, and then I killed on the second day. So I really only had about 2 days of really good rut action, and I was lucky enough to chase down, a number of bulls in that time, and got lucky and put my eyes on this one and stalked into, 60 yards and got a good shot on this bull, and it was all over. So I was pretty excited. I was pumped. Thought I had shot a kind of a lesser bull. No, he was a big bull, but the mass on my bull was phenomenal, as a lot of the bulls on the boulder are. And I thought I had shot a mid-60s bull. And then when we walked up to him, obviously we were surprised to see that he was much bigger, because it was just the time length is where I got confused because he was so heavy, Yeah, I thought he was bigger on the hoof right when I shot him. And then when he ran by me, when I arrowed him and he ran by me, that's when I thought he was a mid-60s bull. So my first guess of the bull was correct. My second guess of the bull was wrong. So
mass does that on most all animals. When you get, as you know, Jeff, when you get something that's heavy, it hides length. And
yes, it does.
You get an overall sense. It's hard to kind of field judge them when they're really heavy because they don't appear as long as they are. And that was an awesome bull. That boulder's a thick mountain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a jungle. It reminded me of Baldy Wilderness in my neck of the woods in Arizona. Baldy Wilderness on steroids. I mean, it was 75 miles, long by about 45 miles wide. And yeah, it's a jungle. It's really thick. Got big open parks, kind of like some of the stuff we hunt in Unit 1, but the elk don't come into the parks like you think they would, much like they do in Arizona. The elk have different, the characteristics. I guess you wouldn't call it characteristics, but yeah, habits. Their habits in Utah are a little different than the elk in Arizona and New Mexico. They do some different things there, such as they hit wallows really, really early. Before the rut comes in, they really hit the wallows hard. And I actually set wallows for a week up there, which is not my style. And it was very, very hard for me to do that daylight to dark. But we had a specific bull we were looking for, and of course he never came in. I passed up, I think, 30 or 40 bulls that came into those wallows, but nothing of any size, just a lot of young bulls. I think the biggest bull I passed on the wallows was about 340.
Now, Jeff, speaking of wallows, I want to get your opinion. I would tell you in Arizona that the bulls don't really start wallowing until the rut's really going, whereas it seems like in Utah, they're even kind of wallowing like right when they're losing their velvet. And it's kind of strange to me. I noticed that when I've been in Utah, the Beaver, and then 10 years ago or so, I was on the Boulder. And explain what your thoughts are as far as, do you notice bulls wallowing that early? And why do you think they're wallowing in Utah early?
Okay, yeah, that's basically what I was referring to, that they did wallow early in Utah, and they don't do that in Arizona or New Mexico.
Why?
I have no idea. And when Jesse had told me, hey, you ought to set these wallows, I looked at him like he was stupid. I'm thinking to myself, wallow? These elk don't wallow till they rut. And these elk were not even in, there were some bulls that were literally just coming out of velvet that were climbing in a wallow, and I don't have any idea what it had to do with. At first I thought it could be bugs, but they're not any higher or lower than some of the country. In fact, they're a lot higher where we were hunting than most of the stuff we hunt in Arizona. So I don't think bugs were the issue. I thought maybe that, they were crawling in there because of the flies or whatever, but I have no idea why those bulls in Utah would wallow that early. And we never see that in Arizona. You can walk up to a wallow in Arizona, and it's clear all the way until, probably September 10th, 11th, 12th, right in there. That's when those bulls will start crawling in those wallows. As the cows start coming into heat and that rut activity starts really cranking up, that's when you're going to see our elk wallow, And I've noticed that. I've put trail cams on wallows in Arizona a number of times, and they won't get any activity till, the 10th, 11th, 12th of September. Maybe other units have, maybe other people have had different experiences with that. I've a number of times I've put cameras on wallows and just never got the activity. Now, in Utah, I could not believe the activity we had on trail cams on wallows. It was crazy. There was one night I had 11 different bulls come into a wallow. And that was in August. That wasn't even in September. I went up because I hunted 17 days in Utah. Because I went up and pounded it out because I was trying to get done so I could get back to Arizona. And, I was blown away. I could not believe that many bulls would come in and crawl in those wallows that early, so.
Yeah, for sure. And then then you shot your bull in Utah, and you had an Arizona tag, 27 tag yourself.
Yeah, I had
a home turf, and how did that go?
Yeah, I had a 27 archery elk tag in Arizona. Was lucky enough to draw two great tags in 1 year. So the plan was, as soon as I was done in Utah, then I would bail home to Arizona and start scouting and getting ready for the hunt there. Now, what I was lucky enough to do is this year the hunt started later because they put the trophy hunt before the archery hunt in 27. And because of that, my dates, it matched up perfectly. The date, it actually overlapped by 1 day. So Utah was 1 day on top of my Arizona hunt, and then I came home to hunt Arizona. But lucky I killed a week before, went down, and I had 2 days to scout prior to my 27 hunt. So I went and set camp, and of course we had hunters in both units there. So I did my own thing. I didn't want to, step on anyone's toes that we were guiding or anything. So I kind of went and did my own thing and had a really good hunt there. Number 1, 2, and 3 bulls in 27 that we had scouted were all dead prior to my archery hunt starting.
And when you're saying that, the Game and Fish did something weird last year, and they actually put the early rifle hunt in front of the archery hunt. So there was a 7-day rifle hunt before your archery hunt started. And so your top 3 bulls were killed. Then
top 3 bulls were all killed before my hunt came on.
How did you notice the bugling or the elk behavior was impacted by having that rifle hunt prior to the archery? What was your thoughts on that impact?
Well, I have a couple of opinions on that. The rut activity and the bugling and different things in the archery hunt, I thought were horrendous. I thought it was terrible. And I wouldn't say that it was a rifle hunt that caused that. I just think the bull to cow ratio is really screwed up, and I just think the elk aren't rutting like they used to. I have no idea why. I've talked to different people, and we have a lot of different opinions between the wolves and Oh, I mean, there's a number of reasons that people say, but we just aren't seeing the rut activity the same. I mean, a number of times, I went 4 days in my 27 hunt where I never heard or saw an elk. Now, I was hunting some rough country where that could probably happen a little more, but to not hear a bull bugle in 4 days isn't normal. And
let me ask you a question with that, Jeff. By piling the rifle hunt in there before the archers, there's what was there 40 tags or
40
on early
tags.
rifle. Yeah. Well, then that you've got all the helpers and everybody out. In my opinion, it was almost like I wasn't there, but I saw it in Unit 9 where they put the early rifle hunt in front of the archery, and it seemed like just when the elk wanted to kind of start thinking about rutting, the pressure really came in, the gunshots went off, and then it took them a while to kind of get back and get into, then the archery hunt starts, and it's like they just got bombarded before they could even start really going.
And Jay, that's a very good theory, because I mean, it was bad. I mean, the elk just did not want to bugle. I mean, I watched about a 330, 340 kind of bull on the side of a hill with 13 cows all day during the third or fourth day of the hunt, waiting. I was just glassing a big face looking for a specific bull that I was trying to find. And that bull never peaked all day, and eventually a smaller raghorn kind, 280 kind of bull come walking up the hill to him, bumped into his cows. The bull bugled one time and ran that bull off, and then he shut up the rest of the night till dark. So, for him not to be chousing and pushing those cows around, and I mean, he was rutting those cows, but he was not bugling. And he was not vocal. And I've seen that 2 years in a row now in 27, where the elk just were really quiet and weren't talking near like like the old days where you get in the giant scrums and the elk, would go ballistic and you didn't know which way to go. So I hadn't seen that kind of rut activity in a few years in some of these units. Unit 1, a lot of times, has been kind of the same as well. We just haven't. I think that the cow numbers are really, really down in the units. Of course, they won't tell you that when we disagree with a lot of what the science says. And, I think they need to listen to us a little more. We've been guiding and outfitting these units for over 20 years. So we've seen the ups and downs, and we've seen, what the numbers have done, and that the increase of tags is that's a whole other thing we could get going on. But
for sure. I mean, let's talk about the archery hunt in Unit 1 and in 27. In Unit 1, there's 300 bull tags, 75 cow tags. In 27, there's 225 bull tags and 100 cow tags. This year, the season dates are September 15th through the 20th or 28th, and September 20th this year is a dark moon. So as far as dates, I feel like the dates for the Arizona archery hunt are going to be about as good as they can be. Neither one of Unit 1 or 27 has that goofy rifle hunt before. What is your idea on those dates and your outlook for that archery hunt in 1 and 27?
For Unit 1, I believe it's going to be it'll still be a really good hunt. The action, Unit 1 is one of our higher units in the state. I mean, of course, it's not a low unit, and
you're talking elevation.
Yeah, elevation, and it's very consistent. The rut's usually pretty consistent there in Unit 1. So I'm expecting to have a really good archery season in Unit 1. Age class has been whittled down a little bit in Unit 1. Don't get me wrong, there's still some big bulls running around, but it's nothing like 12, 13, or 14, where, there was big cranker bulls everywhere in the unit. So they've shot the age class, I'm not going to say they've shot it out, but they've shot it definitely. They've whittled it down to, a lot less numbers of that 7 to 9 year old bull running around. So
How much of that do you, how
27.
much of that do you think is the late hunts whacking the bulls as opposed to the archery hunts? You talk about in Unit 1, I think there's 325 bull tags and there's 460 in 27. How much of the
I
whittling down quality, how much of it do you think is from the archery hunt impact? How much is from the early rifle and how much is from the late hunt impact?
I think most of it is all the late hunt, and the reason I say that is because everybody's shooting a 1,000-yard gun now and running a set of 15 Swarovskis. So, I mean, the elk and with the burns, everything's a sitting duck. So, we have between the guides and stuff, we laugh because we say, a lot of guys don't want to shoot long range, and some guys do and some guys don't. Especially Eastern hunters, they're not used to shooting long ranges. But the sad reality is if you don't lay down and shoot at 600 yards, the guy up the ridge is. And 2 years ago, I had 6 different bulls in a late hunt get shot because my hunters didn't want to shoot long range. So we didn't lay down and shoot, and within the next 20 minutes of that, somebody was shooting at the elk that we were watching. And so it happened a number of times that we saw bulls get shot at 5, 6, 700 yards because, we weren't actually taking those shots because my hunter didn't want to shoot that kind of range, and those bulls got shot because someone else did. And that's happened for the last 3 seasons. We've seen it. This year was the worst I'd ever seen on hearing multiple rounds going off of 20, 25 rounds at one setting. That means somebody is shooting long range, and obviously if they're shooting that many times, they have no clue of what they're doing.
So they're going through a box of bullets. You're sitting there listening to them rifle through a box of bullets.
Yep. At least 6 or 7 times did I hear 20 consecutive rounds or more at one setting.
Goodness. Just a shooting gallery.
Oh. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's guys that can make those long range shots, and I know that there's a huge discussion right now about, the long range shooting. Is it hunting or is it just shooting? There's all kinds of people that, on social media that are, jumping in the conversation on that. And I mean, everybody has their own opinion about that. Being an outfitter and a hunter myself, of course I have my own opinions of it, and it is what it is. It would be hard. There's nothing that they could really do to police it. It's going to happen. The only thing that they could do maybe is cut some numbers and tags because they can say what they want, but without having mandatory harvest reports, I know that the harvest numbers are up, but I really don't know what to credit that to. You look at it, you don't know what to believe because we don't have mandatory harvest reports. So everything, in my opinion, we're taking an educated guess at really what's going on here.
Yeah, so, gotcha. Let's take a quick break here. I want to thank my sponsors of the podcast, GoHunt.com Insider, and remind you guys that if you use the J. Scott promo code when signing up for an Insider membership, you'll automatically get a $50 KUIU gift card. Also want to remind you that GoHunt Insider has just released the accurate Arizona draw odds with the new calculations from the 5% in the random, 5% go to the max pool and 5% in the random pool for non-residents. So make sure to check out GoHunt.com Insider. Use the JScott promo code. Also, phonescope.com. If you use the JScott16 promo code, you get 10% discount on all Phonescope products. You can go to phonescope.com. And the Outdoorsman's, the Optics Authority, 1-800-291-8065, outdoorsmans.com. If you use the J. Scott promo code, you get 10% off on all the Outdoorsman's products and gear there. And then, of course, Real Game Calls out of Colorado. I don't know, Jeff, did you get a chance to pick up a Real Game Calls last year, or did you hear the nasally sounds that this little elk reel call makes? I've had a lot of people buy the call and tell me how much they really like it and how nasally and accurate it is and easy to blow. Real Game Calls, you get a 20% discount if you use the JScott promo code. Go to realgamecalls.com. And I want to thank those sponsors. They make this podcast possible. Jeff, I want to get back to your outlook for 2017. We started talking about the archery hunt with 300 bull tags. In your mind, as a part of your outlook, I mean, if Unit 1 was 150 archery bull tags, in your opinion, would it be just the most unbelievable archery hunt in the state? But because of the 300 tags, it almost holds it back a little bit because of the number of people?
Yeah, it definitely holds it back, Jay, due to pressure, and it makes the hunt not as enjoyable as it once was. For years, it was 150 tags, and it was always just the most rocking hunt you could ever imagine, just because, you were hunting a bull and you didn't have 10 other guys hunting the elk. Well, now with the cow tags on top of the bull tag, on top of 300 tags, it's, I can't say what we call it on the air, but it's quite an interesting show, to say the least, sometimes. Luckily, we're from the area, so we know where to get in and get away from a lot of people and still, get into the quality bulls. But yes, it's definitely, I would love to see it go back to 150 tags on that hunt, and I would like to see the cow. I mean, personally, I'd like to see the cow hunts completely go away, or have a completely separate date to hunt them.
Yeah.
I wish the cow hunts, I think they need to quit killing cows across the state. And that's 9, 10, 3A, 3, it's everywhere. I think the cow numbers are low. They've said what the elk numbers are in Arizona, and I disagree with the numbers that are presented right now. It's just, I think it's off the charts when you think about how many cows we're hunting. When I was a kid growing up, I can remember going out on 260 and seeing, 1,000 head of cows coming across the highway in the snow, and the same with 60 toward Sholo, and you just don't see those numbers anymore like that. Much smaller groups of cows. When you're, of course, in the hunts as well, you don't see those big herds of cows. You see a 5, 6, 7 cows here, and occasionally a bull will have 10 cows with it or something. But you don't see the satellite bulls and different things, which we've learned to hunt them in a different way, and we're going to adapt to what we have to adapt to kill elk. We've ran 100% kill statistics in Arizona for over 5 years. I think we've only had 1 or 2 hunters in Arizona in the last 5 years not kill an elk on any hunt.
So your
success,
it's not that
the number.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's not. You guys are still getting it done, but it's more of a challenge. What would you say is a better hunt? Would you say Unit 1 archery elk hunt is better than 27? And maybe compare that to years past, or how that's maybe changed, or if it's still the same.
I wouldn't put 1 or 27 over one another. They're equal in a number of different ways. I think that Unit 1, of course, with the road access, it's a much milder unit for a client to come in and be in shape. 27 is a lot more rugged. As myself having my own tag this year in 27, I probably never hunted as hard ever on any hunt as I did on my archery hunt, and I put some serious miles on my feet and was chasing a specific bull that was a 390 kind of bull, and never got him killed. But it was because I'd come off the Utah hunt and I was in good shape from that, and I hunted the bull for 8 days of the hunt, and it was a very, very strenuous hunt. Physical because of the terrain that I was in. Now, Unit 1, you're not going to have that kind of, don't get me wrong, there's still places that, you can get in and get away and get into some rough country, but it's nothing like 27. So I wouldn't put one over 27, only when it comes to who has the tag and if they're in the shape to hunt 27 versus Unit 1. Size-wise, I think a lot of bulls come to Unit 1 to rut, and a number of those bulls might come up out of 27, because I think the cow herds are stronger in 1, and it being the milder ground, a lot more cows come to 1 to rut. The bull to cow ratio I think is a lot higher during the archery hunt than it is in the late hunt. And then in the late hunt, I think a lot of those bulls go back into 27 to winter. And I know that's true for a number of reasons, because we have trail cam pics of a number of bulls that come in, that have left 27. So they summer in 27, they rut in Unit 1, and then they go back to 27 to winter. And I've seen bulls that have been shot on the late hunts, and we have video and have watched and hunted those bulls in Unit 1 rutting in the archery hunt. And then they go back to 27, and then we see them get shot in the late rifle hunt there.
That's interesting. How did you end up doing on your 27 archery hunt? Did you end up killing a good one?
Yeah, I killed a really, really good bull. He was right at 370. He had one of his antlers was stunted on the top. So one antler was 20 inches smaller than the other antler. The bull gross 370. If the big antler would have matched up, it'd have been 390.
Big old bull.
So he's still a great bull. Yeah, very old, giant body. Never had the bull on trail cam in either unit. I believe the bull probably summered. My guess is he summered on, either the San Carlos or Fort Apache. Yeah, he was I'm thinking he's a res bull that come across the line looking for cows, and shot him, not really close to the line. I mean, he was, a couple, 2 or 3 miles deep on our side. But doesn't mean that, I do believe that bull was a res bull. Yeah. I think the bull was probably, he was at least, I'm guessing the bull was 11 years old probably.
Yeah, and I mean,
very old bull.
People don't realize, but those bulls, they can make a 2 or 3 mile move overnight, no problem. I mean, they can make a 10-mile move overnight to chase cows.
Right.
And that's one of the things, the perks of hunting a 1 in 27. And, you border the Fort Apache, you border the San Carlos, you never know what might show up. And I think that's always the allure to Unit 1 and 27 is there's always res bulls that get lonely and start searching for cows that there's a lot of cows out there on the public ground, and they get out there and like Dar says, they get stupid and they get in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it sounds like you found one of those.
What he had done is go ahead.
No, go ahead. What did the bull do?
This bull had done is I had seen him the night before. I didn't know it was him. I just put a spot scope on him and looked at him at a mile away. And he was by himself. And so I looked at him and said, "Oh, that's a solid bull." I didn't get a really good look at him because it was really low light. But when he turned a couple times, I thought something was wrong with one of his antlers. And I went back in there the next morning where that was and ended up hiking almost 3 miles into another spot and ended up killing that bull. So that bull had made a giant loop that night. And he got into, that was the only scrum of bulls I got into in my whole hunt, where I come up out of a draw. I mean, they were pushing 20 cows up out of a canyon, and there was 6 bulls with that group of 20 cows. And I got down in the middle of them and then realized I actually passed the bull I shot up once at 50 yards. He walked by me, and he had the palmation, the big, kind of weird antler was facing me when he come through the timber, and so I passed him. And then he got across the draw and started raking a tree, and I got to put my glass on him and really study him. And I thought, man, that's a lot bigger bull than I had assumed. And so I got down in between him and another bull had come up and taken one of his cows. And when he did that, I just snuck down and got on the trail that other bull and gave him a few minutes. And then here he come up to get that cow from that bull, and walked by me, and that's when I killed him. So
Do you think
so? It was
so? It's a great 2016 archery elk season for you with Utah and Unit 27. You were able to personally harvest 2 great bulls. That's fantastic. With that 27 hunt, I believe the archery elk hunt dates last year were the 9th through the 22nd, but 27, obviously that first week, that 9th through the 16th, was the early rifle hunt. So in other words, the archery hunt, I don't believe started till about September 17th last year, which is basically the same dates as this year. But with the archery dates being the 15th through the 28th, with no pressure being in 27 on the early rifle hunt prior to the archery like last year, do you think it's going to be a better archery hunt than it was last year?
yes, I do think it's going to be rut wise. I assume that it will be. Doesn't mean that it will be, because the last few years, like I said, it's the rut activity and with the bugling and stuff has just been off from what I grew up with in those units, and have been hunting for, I've been hunting those units for years. And for the last 3 seasons, we haven't seen that rut action near what it used to be. I have no idea on the vocalization of the bulls. I don't know why they're not as vocal as but we just haven't seen that, and the kill rate and ratios from what the general hunters were hunting in 27 this year. I didn't see near-death elk hanging in camps that you usually see, and a lot of people were really having a hard time. I stopped in a number of camps, people that stopped and talked to me, and a number of times I tried to help people on maps and draw, trying to get people I didn't even know, just people that were really struggling, tried to help them out, and get them into areas where they could at least, get into some action on elk,
Sure.
Just to, try to, there was guys camped near me that really struggled, and I felt terrible. I'd come in at night and, have big bull stories, and they had been skunked during the day, and so sometimes I just kept my mouth shut because I just felt so bad for some of them,
For sure. Let's talk a little bit about the late archery. This year's dates are November 10th through the 23rd, and in Unit 1 there's 30 tags, in Unit 27 there's 30 tags. And if I look at the Go Hunt Insider and looking at non-resident, it was 100% draw last year with 10 points in Unit 1, and it was 12 points in Unit 27, which I thought that number of 12 was pretty high. That hunt kind of intrigues me for someone that's a really good hunter, and it's a 14-day season. What are your thoughts on those late archery elk hunts in 1 and 27 prior to the late rifle hunts?
My thoughts on it are, I would never burn that kind of points on a late archery tag, because I just never would do that, and I would never tell one of my clients to do that as well. If someone is very, very, very experienced and they're going to do it themselves, or when we guide the hunt, we've had late archery hunters in those hunts, and we've done very good. Size-wise is a little tougher. It's a spot and stock hunt. You got to glass them up, and you're going to have to walk over there, get on them, in their beds, and get an arrow in them. It's a completely opposite hunt from the early hunt. So, being a late archery hunt, it does have some, it's got, we've killed 100% on that hunt. For all the hunters that we've had in those hunts have all killed bulls, but it's not an easy hunt, very physical, even in 1, because those bulls have moved into the rough stuff. And when you glass those bulls up, you've got to be ready to go now when they bed up and different things. And and you got to be able to climb hard and fast to get up into where they're at, and you got to have a lot of patience. It's a tough hunt, but it can be very rewarding. I'm not saying it's not. I mean, but it's not your classic archery elk hunt, of course.
Yeah.
You're in there, and
they're not bugling. Do you get any like, second, third rut, any bugling at all? I mean, I've heard of, as crazy as it sounds, I've heard of that sometimes the bulls in Unit 1 especially are actually kind of bugling a little bit on that hunt.
Yeah, I know guys have said that, and I've heard that. I personally hadn't been guiding the hunt. My guides, some of the guides had, because I'm in New Mexico during that hunt on a late muzzleloader hunt, and the guys that we've had over in Arizona have had a bull sound off here and there, but it's nothing like, they're pushing and really rutting cows where they're just really, really vocal. I mean, I know one day they had a lot of vocal bulls, but it wasn't something that was consistent.
Gotcha. And then moving on into the late rifle hunts, there's 325 tags in one and 460. Now we're just talking bull tags, and the season dates are bumped back a little bit this year, December 1st through the 7th. Which is a week
I saw
later.
That.
Do you think that's going to make the hunt better or worse being later?
I don't think it's really going to change much. It's a week, and if it was up during the rut, in October or September, October, it would make a difference. But being late, it's late. It's a week later. I actually like the hunt being a week later because it doesn't press me on a couple of my New Mexico hunts where we had to just pack camp and haul butt for Arizona so we could get going there. So it gives me some time to come in and have the whole crew there scouting for the late hunts, So I don't think it's really going to make a difference. It's later. The only thing it could now, obviously, with weather, every time you push those hunts back, if it's cold, we had a very warm hunting season this year, and then when it turned cold overnight, it got cold, and when we had weather on the late hunt this year, it snowed, and I think we got close to a foot of snow on the mountain.
Does that make the hunting better, in your opinion? If so, by being a week later, being colder and having snow, does that make it even better hunt?
It does. Makes it, on the big burned hillsides, obviously they stick out like sore thumbs, and the elk love to lay in the snow. So they're gonna get in there, and it does make it better. If it storms during the hunt, of course they hold up pretty tight in the thickets during the storm. But after the storms, when they break, the bulls are up moving, and it can make for really good hunting. It just depends. This year we had a couple solid days of storming during the hunt, and it made it, nobody was having any luck during that. And as soon as those storms broke, it was really, really good. And, we had 9 clients on the late rifle hunt, and everybody filled their tag, and we killed some really good bulls. And half of those bulls were shot after those storms broke,
Yeah, for sure.
I wish the numbers, I think so if there's 325 in Unit 1, I believe that's been cut by 25 tags. Now, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that, because I get numbers mixed up in my head between New Mexico, Arizona, and everything. But I want to say there was 350 last year in Unit 1, but I could be wrong. It was either 350 or 325, obviously, but that number hasn't fluctuated.
Yeah.
So.
And then 460 in 27. But one thing to point out too, I don't have the dates right in front of me. Kind of from the time the early archery hunt starts, and then there's cow tags, and I mean there's in both of those units there's just consecutive hunts for deer.
Yeah, they don't lay off.
Turkey.
They do not lay off.
Yeah. Yeah. So
there's people in the woods nonstop, and there is no. I mean, and with 460 late tags in 27, I mean, that's asinine in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, why they would ever put that many rifle tags in Unit 27 is beyond me. I mean, they and I've talked with a number of the game and fish guys, the commissioners, and different things, and it just, and they keep putting it back to the science. Well, science says, but I can tell you right now that that many guns in the woods in that late rifle hunt with the burns and the different things is going to devastate our units if they don't change that.
Well, don't they fly their surveys prior to the rut? I mean, so the numbers that they're going off of are summer grounds and rutting grounds numbers, and then in my mind it's totally changed by the time the late elk hunt starts.
Yes, it does.
I don't
see
get
what
that.
happens when all those elk. What happens when all those elk go back
to the res
into 27 for the late hunt?
Yeah.
Now your numbers are completely off of what you're thinking you're hunting. And, when I was in Utah, I know that we had talked with, a couple of the guys up there, and a lot of those bulls on the boulder would winter on the Dutton. And then the Dutton, they would do these surveys, and they had to actually go and prove that the bulls were coming off of the boulder and wintering on the Dutton, because they were doing, and that's what they were calculating all their surveys by, but that was completely wrong, because the late hunts, a lot of the bulls were leaving and being shot on the Dutton. Same thing happens in some of these other units. You get crossover, and when you get that crossover, it all depends when you do that survey.
Right.
That survey being done at a certain time, because if you were to fly 27 in the late hunt and fly it in, before the rut, you're going to get completely two different counts.
Right.
And I just disagree mainly on how they do that, and I disagree on, not having that mandatory harvest report. I believe that a mandatory harvest report would give us correct numbers, but I just believe that they don't want us to know exact numbers because they're not going to match what they've always, presented. And because of that, they want us to believe. They did it in the Kaibab. We used to have a check station in the Kaibab, and you check your deer, and those numbers were always pretty accurate, I'm guessing, because of the check stations. Well, when the Kaibab hunting got really bad there for a few years, they took that check station out. Well, that's kind of interesting that they took it out at that time. And now nobody really knows, but they would still print the statistics in the regs, and really we're just relying on if that's correct or not. And people make their choices up off those statistics.
Yeah.
And and that's one of my problems with a lot of the way the system is guys wait years to draw these Arizona tags. I've got guys that have been in this draw system for 15 years, and they're going off my recommendation from 15 years ago in a way, and the hunts have definitely changed across the board from what they were 10 or 15 years ago. So much of Arizona, and that's across the board, it's not just 1 in 27, it's all the units are living off their past reputation. Not that there's not still great bulls to get in there and get killed. It's just that it's nothing like it was at one time. And I had a guy yesterday at the show come and said, I've hunted Unit 9 3 times. And I asked him, when was the last time you hunted it? And he said, 12 years ago. And I said, well,
yeah,
it's a far cry from what it was 12 years ago, buddy.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this with different guests on the podcast. Arizona, people need to understand Arizona's quality, Arizona's elk numbers, Arizona's quality of bulls has come down. It is not what it was in 2005. I attribute a lot of that to numbers. Too many tags, and we have to decide as hunters, do we want opportunity or do we want quality? And there's a happy medium, but a few years ago there was a big cry for opportunity, and I think we're seeing the repercussions of that now. And so I mean that's a whole nother debate. But Arizona's quality is not what it used to be. And I'm hoping that somehow we can cut these tag numbers and get back to the high quality of what Arizona used to be known as. And that's not saying that it's still not a great experience, but it's, I've done this for 20 years, and it's like, it's not it's not as good as it used to be, and
No, it's not.
it's
And in Western elk hunting terms, Jay, it's still great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been all over the West, and it's great. It's excellent hunting still. There's no need to, if I had 15 points right now, I'd be trying to draw a tag. I would not be waiting. I can tell you that, because if they don't do something, it's not going to get better. And so I would be trying to draw my tag now and hunt. That's
yeah. I mean,
I think we agree on that.
it comes down to if you've been fishing in the same fishing hole for 20 years, and you can remember at times looking down and seeing 15 fish over 20 inches, and now you go to the same fishing hole and you look down and you see three fish over 20 inches. Well, if you have a guy that's fishing in another hole, down the road, and he's never seen a 20-inch fish, he thinks it's great. But when you're used to seeing, 15, 20-inch fish in there, and now you're seeing three, that it's not as good as it used to be. But it may be great for the guy that's fishing down the road that, he hadn't seen anything
Right.
over 12 inches. So, I mean,
Right.
it's all relative, but it for guys
Right.
like us that are, we used to be the young guys. Now we're kind of getting to be the older guys. It's one of those things that, I hope we can get the tag numbers under control and get high quality back, because that's
The
what
thing is, Jay, Arizona has some units that have that opportunity. And if guys want to have that opportunity, there's units that they can go have that in.
right.
But we need units that we're going to raise the level of the age class to raise the level of maturity on these bulls. And at one time, I thought that each region was going to have that was what was projected that they would do. But I saw them only do that for a couple of years, and then it seems like that went out the window.
Yeah.
So having those units like that, and, it's kind of sad to say, but, New Mexico, let's use it as an example. New Mexico, for us, for my outfit, for Hunt Hard Outfitters, we outdid Arizona this year.
Yeah.
So we killed.
That's almost embarrassing for an Arizona resident to say that. It's true, but I'm saying, don't you almost feel bad saying that?
Oh, I totally do. It's because Arizona has always outdid New Mexico.
Yeah.
But we consistently produce, I think we shot 6 or 7 bulls over 350, 3 or 4 over 360, a couple over 370 in New Mexico this year, which we were able to connect with the big bulls we saw. So this was one of those years we just didn't have a lot of misses. We had very high success rates. We killed 44 for 49 for elk, and we didn't shoot anything under 300 inches, and it was just a banner year, and we've done that for the last couple of years in New Mexico. But it's sad when you compare that to Arizona. And I actually told somebody that, one of the commissioners, that, and he kind of thought I was kidding, and I was like, no, I'm not kidding. We shot much bigger bulls in New Mexico than we did in Arizona. But New Mexico has stayed consistent with their numbers.
Right.
And consistency, is what we have not seen from Arizona. As soon as the fire hit, they literally doubled the tags in some of these units. So 150 tags in Unit 1, and then it went to 300 archery tags. 27 had 250 late rifle tags for its entire span of its life almost. And then, the wallow fire hit, and we jumped clear up to 500 late tags and 460, 380. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy numbers.
For sure.
And my thing is that, they're in the manufacturing business. They manufacture paper tags, and no matter what they manufacture every year, they're going to sell everything they manufacture. And people are going to go out there and they're going to hunt, and they're going to have the opportunities. But, the people I saw in 27 this year on the archery hunt were sad because they said, well, we hunted this 10 years ago, and man, it was just awesome, and we just cannot find elk. And I said, well, and you can't compare it to 10 years ago.
Right. Call your commissioner.
People, yeah, and the thing I've tried to explain to people is, if you hire a guide or an outfitter that's been in here, we are going to find and do what it takes to get into the elk. We scout it, we know it, we see the changes, and we're going to get in those elk. But the I'm not going to call them a weekend warrior, but the guys that hunt and get a tag every 6-7 years, like, because that's how the draw works. You are going to be sad when you come to hunt, because if you don't do your homework, it's not going to be what it once was. And that is where you're really seeing the people, get their butts kicked, because they come in thinking, oh, I'm just going to go to the place and it's just completely different. We're killing elk in completely different areas than we killed elk 10 years ago.
For sure. So, well, man, it's been great talking to you about 1 in 27, and when New Mexico application season gets a little closer, we'll have a chat about New Mexico elk and go over some of that. Wish you the best at the trade show. Be safe up there. Congratulations with the success of the Hunt Hard gear, and encourage the listeners to go check you out. And what other trade shows are you going to be at coming up in the next couple months, so people could maybe look you up?
The ones we have we'll be in Phoenix, Salt Lake, ISE. I wanted to do Western Hunting Expo, but I couldn't get in that show. So really just the ISE show in that's International Sportsman's Expo. It'll be in Salt Lake in March, and then the Scottsdale show. And got a couple of dealer shows that we're hitting. Of course, pushing the gear on the packs and vinyl harnesses and everything. So
awesome, man.
That's really it. I've already I hit Sacramento. I'm in Seattle. Actually, I go to Portland next week. The week after next, I'll be in Portland, Oregon, at that show as well. So, and then I do a dealer show in Reno, and a couple other shows. So I'll be around, but we gotta, I'm flying home this week to get, everything done for the draw. The Arizona draw is coming up, so I've got to go and take care of that for a week and get everybody applied and put in and answer thousands of emails. And
I hear you. And this episode will air here soon, and so I encourage guys to get a hold of Jeff at hunthardoutfitters.com. And Jeff, thanks for spending time with us. Be safe and enjoy the show today, and I'll see you down the road, okay?
Okay, thanks, Jake. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right, man.
God bless. Okay, bye.